The Institute for Health and Healing is a comprehensive integrative medicine program at Sutter Health, dedicated to healing people and transforming healthcare. Check us out at myhealthandhealing.org or on Facebook.
I'm very pleased to announce our first speaker. His name is Phillip Moffit, and he's really got a fascinating bio. He occupies a unique position in the world of mindful living and leadership. And I'm going to read this because I couldn't say it any better than it's written out here. With the astute business acumen honed during his years as a media entrepreneur, combined with deep wisdom about inner development cultivated over the past 30 years as a meditation practitioner and teacher, Phillip brings unparalleled insights and strategic vision to those seeking to lead authentic, purposeful lives. This blew me away. He was editor-in-chief and CEO of Esquire, and he led the successful turnaround of that magazine in the 1980s. Who remembers Esquire? Probably most of the people in the room. After he left his publishing enterprise, he devoted himself to studying and practicing Theravada Buddhism and is now a nationally known teacher of mindfulness meditation. He serves as co-guiding teacher at Spirit Rock Meditation Center in Northern California. And in addition to teaching medicine, Phillip is the president and founder of Life Balance Institute, where he trains individuals and groups in the principles of values-based leadership and living, as well as how to skillfully make major transitions. We need to talk. I'm making a major transition. He has worked with individuals and groups from both the for-profit and the nonprofit sectors, including Google, Pixar, Ford Foundation, and Esalen Institute. Phillip is the author of Dancing with Life, Buddhist Insights for Finding Meaning and Joy in the Face of Suffering and Emotional Chaos to Clarity. How to live more skillfully, make better decisions, and find purpose in life. I would say that encompasses quite a bit. He has written for numerous magazines, including Yoga Journal, Shambhala, Sun, and Tricycle. So with that, I'd like to introduce Phillip Moffit, and come on up.
Well, I'm very glad to be here with you this evening, and what a big turnout, my goodness. I want to first just a heart connection with all of the suffering and distress and loss in your community. It's such a large experience you've gone through, and we've talked about it numerous times at Spirit Rock and ways that we can help and so forth. I didn't have this trouble earlier, so it's gotten changed. Nothing can make up for certain of the losses that individuals have had and members of your community. But one thing that I've learned in these 30 years of pursuing this mindfulness practice and the insight that comes is that we can change how we relate to experiences, even if we can't change the experience. And so our hearts are with you, and one of our aspirations for this evening is to speak to this inner possibility, this inner capability we each have. And one way that it has been captured is through this practice of mindfulness, which in Pali is called sati, but this practice of mindfulness. And it's certainly not the only way, but what's so amazing about it is it's so practical and so accessible in that way. I'm going to take you through various aspects of what mindfulness is and why it works and what its advantages are, both in the workplace and in our personal lives. And then I'm going to give you two examples, all of this in a short form, of how we can use mindfulness to move from a reactive mind state to a responsive mind state. And this is one of these like life-changing, if we can really deeply learn how to do this, to move from reactive mind to responsive mind. And then finish with the difference between stress and pressure, and how to use mindfulness in relation to when you're feeling pressure versus how you use mindfulness when you're feeling stress. Quite a difference in that way. I have I've taught thousands of people meditation. I've been teaching silent meditation retreats from a week-long to a month-long for 20 years now. And as part of these silent meditations, every other day there's a kind of practice meeting with one of the teachers. And so I have heard so many stories and so many questions, encountered so many questions about mindfulness, and also I have a large database from which I speak in that way. It's the only reason I mentioned that. And likewise, in my work with the Life Balance Institute, where we help people make changes and transitions in their lives, mindfulness is a key tool in that. So once again, and people who've never heard of mindfulness or anything necessarily, we've helped them with mindfulness, using mindfulness to help in a change and transition. So I bring both the meditative world and the regular secular lives together in talking with you tonight. And wanting to start out with the sense of, well, what do we mean when we say as mindfulness? What is mindfulness? What are people talking about? And it is certainly talked about now. It's it's like in the New York Times constantly now, and that's always a sign that it's spread everywhere when the Times constantly covers it. And the definition that I would like to use is mindfulness is being present for what you're experiencing in a non-judgmental way. Because we can be present for what we're experiencing, but mostly what we're doing is reacting. We're getting all stirred up about what's present, even if it's pleasant. Even if it's pleasant, we can actually move away from the experience and go to our mind's reactivity around it. So you've just hiked up Mount Tam and you're there looking at the sun as it's sinking in the water over there next to Stinson Beach. And at first it's like, oh, this is beautiful for maybe 30 seconds. And then, oh, I need to come here more often. It would be great to bring Joan up here or my friend Bob. And we've lost the experience. We've lost the experience because we've gone into the wanting mind that's trying to add something else to it. And you may think, oh, I don't do that much. But just watch yourself in 24 hours and see how much that you move away from your actual experience to your views and opinions about it, including improving it or fixing it and so forth. So mindfulness is being present, just being present, and experiencing it in a non-judgmental way. We're not saying it's good or bad. We're not comparing it to some experience yesterday or today or what we think is perfect or what we think others think. We're just being with the experience. My teacher of many years would say over and over again, it's like this. So knee pain is like this. Being upset is like this. Being excited is like this. Having gratitude is like this. It's complete in knowing it. We don't have to add all of that extra reactivity of mind. And mindfulness helps us stay with that with staying present in that way. And the more we stay present, the more we actually open to our own sense of presence. Because every human being has a great sense of presence. But most human beings don't trust themselves and don't have a form that allows for this presence to really develop. Although many people at the time of death, those last months of their life, you will feel that presence, and it can be so beautiful and so stirring. But somehow the wants and fears of daily life stop us from staying present enough to let that come out. And mindfulness can really make a difference in that. Mindfulness is a simple practice, but it requires a kind of reorienting, a retraining of the mind. And that's a necessary ingredient if we're going to really take use of this. Very simple to do. We can all be mindful right now. Like just in this very moment, without moving in any way, just be aware of your right hand. What is the experience of your right hand? It's touching your other hand or your thigh or the chair. You're just being present for the experience of the right hand. You don't have to have any thoughts about it. Oh, it feels like this. You can feel, is the hand tight or loose? You can maybe feel the bones. You can feel the quality of the skin. You can maybe feel the pulsation of the blood. You can just feel, oh, I really feel present, just because you're focused on something that's immediate in this way. This is this power of mindfulness. And it has so many different aspects. It is felt, it's of feeling the experience in your body, that there's a felt experience. We call this the felt experience. Mindfulness brings understanding, and that understanding comes through the felt experience more than the old coconut figuring something out. You know, it's the actual showing up so that our intuition and our heart space can meet with the mind in such a way that we go, oh, it feels like this. Also, this knee pain is made up of a tightening, a burning. It's increasing, it's decreasing. Oh, it's now squeezing. Oh, there's little pinpricks in it. And so the knee pain, which at first seems overwhelming, becomes just knee pain. This is why mindfulness-based stress reduction has been so powerful for people who have chronic pain. They change their relationship with those nerve endings. The nerve endings are still firing, it's still painful, but their relationship to that pain is dramatically different. So then the same works with in the therapy world and so forth, as you will hear more about. The second thing is that the felt sense extends to the emotions, so that any experience we have creates some sort of pleasant and unpleasant feeling, and it brings about some emotion of some kind, some emotional felt sense. And as we stay mindful, we start to see that, and we start to understand the power of the fact that we have a pleasant or unpleasant association with anything. The taste of a food, being in traffic, that it's either pleasant or unpleasant to our mind, that little flavoring, and that leads to all of this suffering, that if we just notice the pleasant and unpleasant, that all that other suffering doesn't happen. It's bad enough to be in traffic. To let it ruin your time while you're in traffic is like a double loss. And even more so on things that are really personal and close to us. So that's the felt sense of the emotion that an experience elicits any given moment. And then the third aspect is seeing the impersonal nature of what's happening. We all have anger, we all have excitement, we all have curiosity, we all have body pain, we all sleep, we all eat. So much of life is a shared experience. So my anger and your anger is both anger. My curiosity and your curiosity, it's both just curiosity. But we're having a unique experience of each of these things that we have in common. And so the trick is that as we learn to be more mindful of seeing it, okay, well, here I am with my difficult sibling who once again is blaming me because, you know, our father liked you more than me, or whatever it is in your case, or your friend of me, you know, when you go to lunch with her and when you say something that happened to you that you're really happy about, she says, oh, well, that happened to me, that, you know, that friend of me experience that happens. That you can just see this is just the nature of human mind. It works like this when there's not mindfulness, and we don't take it so personal. So as we investigate because we're non-judging, we see more clearly how this is put together, and it can bring such relief in this way, such relief. So one way to think about it is the balance between taking life impersonally and personal. How much do you take personal and how much do you take impersonal? You can look right now and you may be saying, well, most of my life I take as very personal, and I like that. But as you look at it, you go, yeah, but I also have a lot of ups and downs, and I have a lot of unease. So as you notice more of the objective, there's more spaciousness in life. But at the same time, we don't want to be without the personal experience. So what is that balance of seeing how life is just this way, and this is our personal experience of life? One way I describe this is, yes, we all have a movie. We have a soap opera of our lives that's, very interesting and all. And yes, we're in it. And yes, we have a very important part. But in time, we discover that we're not really the star of the movie. But we do have an important part to play, but we're not the star. And as soon as we feel that we're not the star, all of this, I'm not good enough, oh, I've got to get this right, what are they thinking of me? It will all shift. I've watched this happen in so many people as they learn to not be the star of their movie through mindfulness. Mindfulness, wait a second, let me get that back again, sorry. So mindfulness, why mindfulness works is it enhances and retains attention skills. Nowhere in school did anyone ever teach you the skill of paying attention. They were always telling you to pay attention. And you instinctively looked for something that would make you want to pay attention, but nobody actually taught you the skill of paying attention. And one of the benefits of mindfulness is we discover what attention is, what the felt sense of attention is, and we become more and more able to just pay attention to what's true in the moment. Very enhancing. Likewise, we have an increase of body awareness that is much more refined, so that because without knowing it, we tend to look at our body in terms of is this experience pleasant or unpleasant? When I had you with your right hand, it was maybe neutral to not so much. But if you look around at your body in an open way, you'll see that you tend to notice what's pleasant or unpleasant about it. But in time, with mindfulness, you come to the aliveness feeling, that felt sense of being alive in the body. And this has so many benefits. And then this non-judging creates an emotional balance. So as we stop judging ourselves, we don't swing so far one way or the other. And when we do swing, we come back. So much of our stress, so much of our distress in life is because of these emotional swings. And this practice makes a big difference in that. And it reduces the fixation and repetitive thinking that we do. How many times have you told yourself your favorite stories, the favorite complaints, the favorite worries? How many times have you rehearsed this conversation you're going to have with someone over and over again and gone through all of this reactivity around it, all the stress around it? When you're being mindful, you go, I've already thought this 16 times. I don't need the 17th. And we do something that feels better, feels more meaningful. And again, this is easy to prove for yourself. You don't have to believe anything. You just start being present in the moment, just being here now without any judgment about it. What's true? What's going on now? What is happening right now? And how do I feel about it? What's the felt sense of it? And it unfolds on its own. Mindfulness is effective also because it diminishes the reactivity of the mind, and because it brings forth new understanding. As we watch ourselves over and over again without an agenda, we don't have to have any kind of I'm going to self-improve. Just being present changes us. As we seeing, it's like the truth shall set us free. That's not entirely accurate in my opinion, but some degree of that setting us free really happens. It really does happen. So this is the power of mindfulness, what makes it effective. When we're at work, it has this effect of improving our decision making because we're not in the reactive mind state. We are able to see more clearly. We have a focus and an energy, and it sharpens alertness. And again, you don't have to be like, I'm going to the gym and work out. Practicing mindfulness doesn't have that extra efforting. It's just being mindful right now. Now feel your back, right this moment. Feel your back. You're just present with the feeling of the back. This is the felt sense of the back. Now drop to your feet. Drop your attention to the feet. Feel if you have on socks or the shoes, or just feel the feet. What's the feet experience of the feet? It's that simple. What's your mood right now? Is that a happy mood, a puzzled mood? What's the mood right now? It's that simple. Just being present for what you're experiencing. And you can move your attention, or you can ask yourself, what is prominent in my experience right now? What is determining the way I'm feeling? Because sometimes you can have the same amount of body discomfort, and one time it's not determining what you're feeling at all, and another time you're totally contracted into it. And mindfulness reveals all that to us. And our story may well be, I'm always contracted around this pain. But as we stay mindful, we realize it's not true. It's just not true. Sometimes I am not that affected by that same level of pain. Very empowering to understand this. And it also, mindfulness reduces our impulsive reactions. I taught in a prison program for 4 years, and the big difference between all of us and the people behind those bars was impulse control. There were certainly exceptions where there was a kind of pathology, but so many of them, this was not a heavy-duty prison, but so many of them, it was impulse control. They had an impulse of some kind, and it drove them. And the mindfulness, you just would not believe the effect. There's all these different now prison programs, many of them around the country, including a wonderful one here in the North Bay area. And it makes such a difference in the lives of these inmates. And mindfulness in the workplace builds better working relationships, because when people are mindful, they have a different kind of, because of that lack of impulse, of being snappy, there's a kind of pause moment before people react. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And so as we look then at the personal benefits, one of the things as we age from 25 on, it's resilience. We're always in need of resilience. 50 on, much more so. 70 on, much more so still. How do we maintain resilience, this responsiveness, this vitality? And mindfulness, by being present, our whole system wants to renew itself. There's a natural thing in the body and mind to renew, and mindfulness really makes a difference in that. And also, as we don't get caught in our story over and over again, we drain our vitality by getting lost, by getting caught, by contracting to going into our judging mind and our comparing mind. Another personal benefit is it allows us to reframe and reorient experience. This would be a whole morning's seminar on learning how to reframe and reorient. We take, with the untrained mind, takes an experience at its surface level. But that if you look closely, there's something much more interesting going on than the surface level of your experience. And again, you can take one day and just say, I'm going to see if that's true what that guy said. Can't remember exactly what all he was talking about, but he was saying this, so I'm going to just see if that's true. And then it helps us cultivate sensitivity to others, and it increases our capacity for self-management and our ability to self-soothe. And self-soothe means this ability to calm ourselves, to ground ourselves. So, moving from a reactive mind to a responsive mind. A reactive mind is a mind that is responding because it's pleasant or unpleasant. It's responding out of habit, or it's responding because of some conditioning that has been laid upon us at some time. It just reacts. A reactive mind is like a puppet on two strings. It's either unpleasant, I don't want that, get away from me, or it's pleasant, oh, I want that, or I want it, and I have it, and I want more of it, or I have this pleasant experience, and I want to justify having it when others don't. So it's very narrowing, this reactive mind. And again, it's reacting oftentimes from a sense of wanting, or of judging ourselves, of comparing, and of a kind of misperception because we're not paying close attention. And mindfulness is nothing but close attention. And so when we have a reactive mind state, you're at the mercy of your habits. And this is the big understanding. You're defined by what's occurring. With people that come to mindfulness practices because of chronic pain or because they're in the dying process, they move away from this being defined by this experience in this way. And again, it's easy for you to see this for yourself, and it very much restricts our choices. When you are in a responsive mind, moving from reactive, which means I'm just reacting to the stimulus, to a responsive mind where same stimulus, same qualities, I'm going to come to this moment from my deepest values. I'm going to come to this moment from what matters to me. Then you move from being defined to being characterized. This really shows up in terms of people in their past. So many people start with meditation and they come in, and one of the things they want to talk about is their past difficulties, a terrible thing that happened to them, or a loss, or where they didn't say yes when they should have. They're being defined by their past, that they're restricting their sense of their possibility based on the past. But as they become more and more mindful and they see the range of the mind-heart experience, they still have a past that was still difficult, but now the feeling is one of being characterized rather than defined, moving from defined to characterized. And therefore, we have choice. And the way that we can use that choice is sometimes to stop the momentum of the habitual mind. Don't get sucked into to reacting to when someone at work is not kind, when someone in the supermarket, when someone in the medical world you're in is not acting the way you would think they should act. To not get pulled into that where you get defined by, I'm being disrespected, I always get disrespected, it's this, the system's bad, or whatever it is. It's just story after story after story. But then you're being defined by, but you go, oh, this person's having a bad day, or they didn't understand, or how do I get them to hear what I'm saying? There's a pause. That's what I call an interrupt. I used to use the word pause all the time, but now it's been taken over by the for-profit world so much, this idea of a pause. But it's an interrupt of the habitual mind. And we find this through practicing mindfulness in daily life and in meditation. The difference between pressure and stress. Pressure, and this is, in all of my, I was something of a workaholic in other people's definition. I at one point ran 2 companies as both the creative head and the CEO of two companies that were 1,000 miles apart. And I worked 7 days a week. And people said, how did you stand the stress? And I would say, actually, mostly what I felt was pressure. There was only rare moments, rare times when I actually felt it as stress. And this led me to what I've now been teaching for many years about stress and pressure. Pressure is a combination of the amount of work we have to do. Some of you in here know about the amount of work you have to do and feel the pressure of that, and how difficult it is, therefore how much attention you have to pay to it or effort you have to make, and the time constraints you have, and how many resources, in your resources. Sometimes you're sick with the flu or something, you're having to get this done, or you didn't get much rest because you're taking care of someone else, or whatever it may be, or you've really been rested, you're just back from vacation. And external resources, how much the office is helping, or if it's a home situation, others are helping. And then the level of importance, pressure. If it's really important, we feel that as pressure. Pressure is also a combination of the other pressures in your life with whatever your work is. And if there's excessive work and it's pressure that is not sustainable, and you do sustain, then you create a strain. So it's just pressure, but pressure long enough. If you put enough load on a wagon and you're carrying something, the wagon can carry a lot of load, but at some point, enough of a load, it will break the wagon. In the same way, with pressure, because the work can create a strain, and then we feel that strain as being stressed. But that's not the usual source of stress. Well, I'm sorry. Mindfulness, the role of mindfulness with pressure is that we discern what's out of balance. And with the leaders I work with, this is something that there's a lot of resistance to naming what's out of balance. And then we identify what we can do to support ourselves, which including asking others. Every year at Spirit Rock, I do a day-long for care providers, both professional care providers and home care providers. And this is one of the things that we emphasize. I bring in a whole team of people to help, and they can see people individually and all, is how do you identify what you can do to support yourself? And then that requires this kind of mindfulness that allows you to recognize and make the changes you need. So in pressure, mindfulness is to recognize that it's out of balance and do something about it. Whereas in stress, stress is a mental reaction to pressure. It is the mind's reactivity. If we don't react to the pressure, it's just pressure. But if we get reactive, it becomes stress, and we have all the physiological changes that have been so well documented for so many years. And it is very subjective. It varies with each individual and with times of our life and the kinds of pressure that we're having. But we're all subject to falling into stress. Stress can seem sometimes like having the experience of stress gives me status, but that is really, from a mindfulness perspective, deluded thinking. And stress is cumulative if there is no break. So stress has more and more of a deterioration on our sense of well-being. Whereas pressure, if there's relief from the pressure at times, pressure does not necessarily have that same deterioration. And stress is very much affected by health and diet and sleep and so forth. With mindfulness, the use of mindfulness is to recognize the stress and identify it as just a mind state, as opposed to an identity. I am stressed. There is stress. This situation is stressful, as opposed to I am stressed. And then when we recognize that we're making identity out of the stress, to stop it. So one asks oneself, is this pressure or stress? If we recognize it as just pressure, then we can oftentimes just automatically, through the mindfulness, there's a shift that happens. So then the role of mindfulness here is that we be kind to the part of you that is feeling stressed. This is one reason that stress builds, is that there's some pushing it aside rather than meeting it with compassion and so forth. And then we notice how the language of stress reinforces the identity of stress. The more you think you're stressful, the more you are going to become stressful. And with that, let's just do a few minutes of experimenting here as we look at the path of well-being, from mindfulness to being present, to becoming clear and calm, to a deeper understanding for ourselves and knowing what matters, a wiser response, what I call an intentional life, and this arising of an inner well-being. This is the path that comes from that, just the simple practice of mindfulness. And let's just have an experience of this for ourselves here, of the mindfulness. So if you'll close your eyes, if you're comfortable having your eyes closed. Arriving in the moment is something that is often not referred to in practice. But arriving here now, knowing that you're here now in this room, this feeling of being present. Oh, I'm here. Where? In this room. When? Now. And what is my purpose here? To learn, to grow. It's because of curiosity. And what do? I bring mindfulness front and center. I am very clear that I want to cultivate mindfulness. So simple, but if we don't arrive in the moment, if we're not clear on our intent, and if we don't invite mindfulness to arise, it's so easy to it never really fully arises. We're a little bit off. Many of you may have experienced this and not had a way of understanding it. So arriving here and now, clear intent, and mindfulness front and center. And then we come to the body just as it is. Not judging the body, not comparing the body, but inviting the felt sense of body. We've done these exercises along the way. Just feel your body. You may notice the body as a whole. You're just feeling body. Or you may notice that the various parts of the body are vying for your attention, that the one sensation is happening in one part of the body and you're drawn to it, and then you notice another sensation. Both ways of being with the body work equally well. The felt sense of body. Notice if you start to have opinions, judging, commenting on your own feeling of the body. And just stop. Just stay with the felt sense. Here, now, this very moment. Relax into the body. Let the attention rest on the body. No tension in the body, no added tension in the body. Not demanding the body be different, not demanding that your experience of being with the body is different. This is mindfulness. Just being with what is. And then shift the attention to the breath. Just one inhale. Just one exhale. The next inhale. The next exhale. This is your anchor object. You can use the body as a whole, body focus rather than just the breath, if that works better for you in your daily practice. Or you can use the breath or any other object as that goes. But we're pointing tonight to the breath. Where do you have a felt sense of breath? Is it in the belly? Is it rises and falls? Is it in the chest? Is it at the tip of the nostrils as the air is coming in and out? This in of the inhale, feeling it at the tip of the nostrils, right above the upper lip. And feeling the out as the breath leaves the body. You may feel the breath as just pressure and not movement so much, or tingling, or vibration. And then you may experience the breath as a whole body breath. That the breath comes in and you feel it like a wave coming in and moving through the body. Each of these ways are fine for meditation. Just relaxed. The attention is relaxed. Remember, we're learning how to direct attention. The mind may stay steady on the breath, or it quickly moves to a thought, or a body sensation, or a memory, or planning. When you notice this has occurred, just pause for a moment and realize that you're awake, that you once again can direct your attention because you're awake. You're mindful in this moment. Mindful in this moment. That's what it requires to direct attention. And then without judging or comparing, because your mind wandered, see that you have this choice of attention and just gently but firmly reconnect to the felt sense of breath, or if it's body sensations you're using. Gently, gently, but firmly, firmly. Invite this feeling of relaxed presence. You're relaxing as you ground attention on the breath. Sometimes there arises a kind of joy from the stillness or the quiet. Welcome that joy. Sometimes it's fatigue or worry that wants to present itself. Accept it all, but then go back to the breath. This is called starting over. And it's one of the great hidden secrets about directing attention. If we're willing to start over and we're patient and persistent, we're unstoppable. Just this inhale, just this exhale. I'd like to close the meditation by inviting you to do the loving kindness practice that is often taught with mindfulness meditation. Loving kindness, and in this instance directed towards your body. So I'm going to say a line out loud, and then you say it silently towards your own body. And it's well-wishing, it's friendness. It's not like a prayer, but it does have some effect of well-being in the mind. And it does sometimes tap into a healing capacity. But it's friendness, it's not like prayer. May this body be safe from harm. 3 times say this, please. May this body be calm and clear, peaceful and loving. May this body be physically strong, healthy, and vital. Relative to what's possible, we live in a world that's like it is. Our bodies are like it is. But this attitude that builds resilience, may this body be physically strong, healthy, and vital. May this body be physically strong, healthy, and vital. And then just let everything go and just be for 30 seconds. No thoughts, just be present. A very short sample of mindfulness, both in its structures to why it works and the actual experience of it. Thank you for your kind attention.